A very good evening. From stories around the world to stories here at home, this is the National News Broadcast. I'm Vidushni Sadish Kumar.
Very good evening, I'm Lakshitendra Singh, and to start off, we take a look at the headlines for tonight.
Budget for the year 2020 was approved without a vote. Prime Minister says a financial provision of 70,000 million rupees allocated for the prevention of COVID-19. A total of 10,653 COVID-19 recoveries recorded in the country thus far. 15 quarantine curfew violators in isolated areas have been taken into custody using the drone technology. The program to cover the subject curriculum for the third term set to commence on the 16th through the channels I and Netra. Indian economy suffers the worst decline in history.
On to those and other stories in detail, starting off with your top story for tonight. The budget consisting of the fiscal expenditure and income for the year 2020 was approved in the Parliament without a vote. The budget was approved with amendments. Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa, delivering the budget speech for the year 2020 as the Minister of Finance, said that the policy of the government as stated in the budget is to change the disastrous socio-economic path that the country has embarked on in the last 5 years. The Prime Minister, addressing the Parliament today, said that the proposals to create a modern economy in the country through vistas of prosperity will be presented to the Parliament through the Budget Speech 2020 on the 17th of November. Even though a budget was expected to be presented at the end of 2019 for this year, the previous government failed to present the budget to the Parliament. Instead, funds for the first quarter of the year was allocated through a vote of account. With the dissolution of the Parliament on the 2nd of March this year, the necessary funds for the period from March to May of this year were allocated by the President in accordance to Section 150 of the Constitution. With the postponement of the general elections due to the COVID-19 outbreak in the country, the President allocated funds for the period from June to August through another vote of account. Following the general elections, funds were allocated for the final quarter of the year through yet another vote of account. Accordingly, funds for the year 2020 were allocated through 4 vote of accounts. Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa said that he was glad to be able to present the second reading of the Appropriation Act for 2020. Although this was the 11th time he presented an Appropriation Act in Parliament, he said that this Appropriation Act was different from those presented so far. He added that this Appropriation Act includes 4 vote on accounts, and this was a report of the government's public financial management in line with those votes on accounts. A vote on account allows only the provision of public services and to provide allocations for already approved expenditures, he added. The Prime Minister said that it limits the space for a government to address the aspirations of the people immediately, especially for a government which was brought to power by an overwhelming majority desiring change. He said that the first year of the government of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna, elected under the leadership of President Gotabaya Rajapaksa, was an immensely challenging year that no other elected government had faced ever before. In spite of the increase in the number of deaths due to the effects of the unexpected second wave of COVID-19, the government has been able to maintain a relatively low death rate at around 0.3% and leads in the prevention and quarantine process in comparison with many other advanced countries, he added. The Prime Minister said that the nation must not forget that the main reason for that is the free health system and the health service that operates covering all provinces in the country. He further said that the health services were further strengthened by the commendable discharge of responsibilities by the public sector services, the security forces and police, which he believes warrants the acknowledgement of the Parliament on the national importance of these services. This Parliament, which has full authority over public finances, should allocate provisions to those services not only because of their national importance, but because this House agrees with one voice that the maintenance of free health services should be strengthened, he added. He said that a monumental effort has been made towards the management of the corona pandemic, even within the limitations arising from the vote on accounts, coupled with the weak budget and economy which the present government inherited. Nevertheless, he said that the government has already spent around 70,000 million rupees for the identification of patients, quarantining activities, random testing and related welfare activities. The Premier further said that daily PCR testing capacity for the diagnosis of the disease has been increased to an average of 7,500 to 10,000 tests per day, with each test costing around 6,000 rupees, with the daily expenditure exceeding almost 50 million rupees. He said that a main feature of bridging the budget deficit in the recent years was the non-settlement of dues to suppliers and beneficiaries from whom the government had procured goods and services. He added that such outstanding unpaid bills amounted to 243 billion rupees, while the foreign debt-financed expenditure amounted to 212 billion rupees, remained unaccounted due to the approved borrowing limit being exceeded, resulted in the reported budget deficit for 2019, not reflecting the actual fiscal position. He said that from 2020 onwards annually, foreign debt servicing amounts to approximately $4,200 million. He added that members of the opposition and their advisors, both local and foreign, had forecasted that the nation would become a country in default as the government was caught in a debt trap. Contrary to the forecasted dark picture, the Prime Minister said that the government has settled all debt obligations, including the foreign currency debt dues for the year 2020. He also said that the governmental accomplishments in 2020, even amidst many challenges, are considerable, of which one of the key achievements is solving the unemployment issue of more than 60,000 graduates, which had prevailed for years, the Premier added. He further said that by now jobs have been provided to nearly 40,000 people under the program to provide jobs targeting 100,000 people from the poorest of the poorest families. He said that the aim of the government is to complete the 100,000 target before the end of this year. The Prime Minister indicated that the policy of the government as stated in the budget is to change the disastrous socio-economic path that the country has embarked on in the last 5 years. He added that if the country is to achieve economic independence, then it is mandatory that the nation change its course. It is the responsibility of the government to reduce the income-expenditure gap to 4% of GDP by 2025, which now stands at nearly 10%, and to reduce the overall debt to GDP to 75% of GDP within the next 4 years, he further added. The Prime Minister said that it has become a national need to change the mindset of the nation to have faith in a production economy that supports exports and domestic production capabilities with less import. He said that the government has to not only convert a negative economy to a positive high economic growth rate of 6%, but such growth should result in the eradication of poverty. The Prime Minister reminded that this is the vision of the Vistas of Prosperity policy as presented by President Gotabaya Rajapaksa. The Prime Minister said that he will present the proposals to create a modern economy in the country through Vistas of Prosperity to the Parliament through the Budget Speech 2020 on the 17th of November 2020.
Well, with more local stories in detail, Chief Epidemiologist Dr. Sudat Samaravida says that the public should not inflict any fear to seek for treatments in hospitals for other medical conditions, as the hospital system is well prepared to safeguard the patients amid the COVID-19 outbreak. Well, he made these remarks during a media briefing held in Colombo today.
We have seen that we have identified that some people are reluctant to come to hospitals because of the fear that they will get COVID-19 if they come to the hospital. That is not the case. That the hospitals are doing everything to prevent the spread of infection within the hospital premises. So the people should not get panicked or get afraid of coming to the hospital. Actually, that we are telling that all the time that people should restrict their movement, should stay at home as much as possible, and also that especially those who are elderly and who are having chronic diseases should not come out of the home at this moment. But that does not mean that when there is a real necessity that they should not come out. That especially for their health conditions that they should come. At this moment, if somebody is suffering from fever, cough, cold, sore throat, or difficulty in breathing like symptoms, that they should at once that come to the hospital, or at least that they should consult a doctor over the phone and get advice. If a person wants to come that with these type of symptoms, they can call Suasaria 1990, the ambulance services, and get the services. And in addition, that the people who are in the Colombo Municipal Council area recently that have been locked down, that these people can seek assistance for ambulance by calling to this telephone number 011 558 011 558. If the people in the lockdown area in the Colombo Municipal Council by calling this number can obtain ambulance services. In addition, that we saw that some people who are having these mild symptoms, that they don't come out for the testing or for treatment. So the Colombo Municipal Council is now planning to do that mobile service for collecting samples from the people that who are not coming, and if they are having symptoms. This will be implemented. It will be convenient to the health staff as well as the public in these areas also. People have to use the public transport. We have issued the guidelines that how to go in a public transport system. We know that in the public transport, within a bus or within a train, that maintaining 1 meter distance is not practical. So what the best can do has to do. So this includes that people that should go in this public transport system only to the seating capacity, and also that before they are entering, at least that when they are leaving the house, should wash their hand with soap and water, and should board the bus like that. And also that soon after that they get down, should wash their hand with soap and water, or should use hand sanitizer to clean their hands. Also during the transport, that should wear a mask properly, and also that if they are having cough or sneezing, that it should be controlled with the mask as it is, and with the flexed elbow or with a tissue. That is very important if such a person is having COVID-19, otherwise it will spread to other people. And also it is good that the buses, the public transport system, maintain a register that who are traveling in that vehicle. The other thing is the people can keep a note on that on which bus or in which transport system that they used and when it was done, so that it will be helpful later on if that we identify the COVID-19 person has travelled in a public transport system, to identify who are the close contacts of this patient.
Meanwhile, Ministry of Health says that a total of 10,653 COVID-19 recoveries has been recorded in the country at present. 470 COVID-19 patients were discharged from the hospitals today following their complete recovery. Another 40 COVID-19 patients directed to the Valikanda, Poonani and Gallala COVID-19 treatment centres in Polonnaruwa district have left the centres following their recovery. They have been identified as residents of Colombo, Galle, Monaragala, Anuradhapura and Mullaitivu. A total of 4,030 COVID-19 recoveries was reported in the past 7 days. 646 COVID patients have left the hospitals yesterday following their recovery from the disease. Another 470 recoveries were reported today. A total of 10,653 COVID-19 recoveries has been reported from the country at present, which is a percentage of 68.17. Meanwhile, the percentage of active COVID-19 patients currently receiving treatment stands at 31.53. A total of 277 COVID-19 patients were detected from the country today. The patients have been identified as close contacts of the Paliaguda COVID-19 cluster. Meanwhile, 470 COVID-19 recoveries were reported today. A total of 10,207 PCR tests were conducted yesterday. Accordingly, 629,315 PCR tests have been conducted in the country at present. Commissioner General of Prisons Tushar Rupavahini said that a total of 153 inmates and 4 prison officers have been tested positive for COVID-19. So far, a total of 9,500 PCR tests have been conducted in prisons. Meanwhile, Director General of Health Services confirmed the 47th and 48th COVID-related deaths in the country today. Accordingly, 2 patients treated at the Mulleriava Base Hospital had died from the disease. One of the deceased has been identified as a 54-year-old male from Colombo, and the cause of his death has been determined as COVID-19 infection along with a chronic lung disease. The other deceased is a 45-year-old male from Megoda area, and the cause of his death has been determined as COVID-19 infection along with a secondary bacterial infection.
15 quarantine curfew violators in isolated areas have been taken into custody using the drone technology. Meanwhile, special operations are underway in search of individuals who have violated the restrictions imposed on movement in Western Province. Restrictions were imposed limiting the outward movements from the Western Province, which records the highest number of COVID-19 patients in the country yesterday. The restrictions will be in effect until November 15th midnight. Also, 27 police divisions, 5 Grama Niladhara divisions and 5 multi-storied housing complexes in Colombo are continued to be isolated. However, permission has been granted for the officials engaged in essential services to travel from movement-restricted Western Province. This has been granted in accordance to the permission extended previously to use the official identity card of 112 institutes to travel within the provincial limits. Quarantine curfew violators in isolated areas were taken into custody today through aerial surveillance activities. A Bell 212 type helicopter and drones were used for the surveillance in the isolated areas. The operations were carried out in a joint venture of the Sri Lanka Air Force and Sri Lanka Police. The Railways Department has informed that all passenger train services have been cancelled on a Saturday and Sunday, which are government holidays. The department further indicated that all office and provincial railway services will resume as usual from Monday onwards. Also, Sri Lanka Transport Board has informed that bus services arriving and leaving Western Province have been temporarily suspended. The Ministry of Health had issued a series of guidelines on how to conduct the Deepavali festival celebrations. This year's Deepavali festival is expected to celebrate on coming Saturday. According to a statement issued by the Ministry of Health, the religious and community leaders must direct a special attention on the health guidelines issued by the ministry. Accordingly, the public should remain in the places where they reside at present without any social gatherings. The festival should be celebrated at residences without engaging in any long trips. Wishes for the Deepavali festival must only be conveyed via telephones. Conducting of religious ceremonies associated with kovils, communities or estate communities should be avoided. Lighting of lamps while using sanitization, liquid consists of alcohol should be avoided. Conducting of parties and gatherings with the use of liquor and smoking substances should be avoided. A special attention should be directed on maintaining social distancing. The Ministry of Health has requested all Hindu devotees to adhere to these guidelines in order to prevent the spread of COVID-19 in the country.
State Minister Susil Premajayant says that a methodology has been formulated for the students to cover all subject curriculums from their respective residences. He made these remarks while addressing a media briefing held at the Ministry of Education today. State Minister Susil Premajayant said that the channels I and Netra of the national television will be used for a period of 16 hours a day to cover the main subject streams from grade 3 to 11 as well as GCE advanced levels grade 12 to 13. Also, he said that the art channel will be used for a period of 4 hours a day to cover the main subject streams in English medium, while channels I and Netra will conduct the lessons in Sinhala and Tamil mediums. He said that the telecasting of the special educational program will be commenced on the 16th of November at 4 a.m. State Minister said that the respective time schedule for the program has been formulated for a period of 2 weeks. He added that the program has been compiled for a period of 10 weeks. He said that the objective of the ministry is to cover all the curriculums of the subjects following the failure to commence the third term at the end of December.
Reports have indicated that the harvests of the farmers reached Dambulla Economic Centre today without any hindrance. It was seen that buyers from various parts of the country purchasing the producers of the farmers at the Economic Centre. Parliamentarian Pramitha Bandara Tennakon dismissed the reports which claimed that the stocks of vegetables received by the Economic Centre have been discarded without being able to sell them.
new drone regiment of the Sri Lanka Army Artillery consisting of the drone technology was inaugurated today. The inauguration ceremony was held with the presence of Sri Lanka Army Commander Lieutenant General Shavendra Silva at the Sri Lanka Army headquarters. The Sri Lanka Army raised its newest drone regiment, gearing the army to prepare for the fast-changing technological advancements and new challenges upon a concept of Sri Lanka Army Commander Lieutenant General Shavendra Silva. Initial steps to commence the new drone regiment, functioning under Sri Lanka Army Artillery Regiment, commenced in last June. Subsequently, 3 army officials and 41 officials belonging to other ranks received necessary training and functioning mechanisms on drone technology. Sri Lanka Nanotechnology Institute also contributed with technological assistance for the new program. Sri Lanka Army had to resort to the assistance of the Sri Lanka Air Force to take aerial shots and other surveillance purposes during any emergency situation up until now. Also during the humanitarian operation in the country, the necessary aerial shots and footages for strategic warfare requirements were provided through pilotless and Beechcraft type aircrafts belonging to Sri Lanka Air Force. The drone technology is expected to be considered for emerging soft operations, trends in war scenarios, natural man-made disasters, floods and other catastrophes, special emergency circumstances, chemical warfare, outbreak of community-infected epidemics, motor traffic surveillance purposes, wildlife and conservation operations, and to assist 3D imaging purposes. Sri Lanka Army Commander Lieutenant General Shavendra Silva also observed 3 vehicles, including a multitask truck, which are locally produced by the Electrical and Mechanical Engineering Regiment of Sri Lanka Army. All 3 vehicles are equipped with the GPS technology.
Former ambassador of Sri Lanka to USA, Jalia Wickramasuriya, says that the Financial Crime Investigation Department had obtained a warrant by misguiding the judiciary with the aim to take political revenge against him. He made these remarks while recording a statement with the Presidential Commission of Inquiry on Political Victimization today. Former Ambassador Jalia Wickramasuriya, who had been under warrant for more than 2 years while evading the judiciary, appeared before the Presidential Commission for the first time today. He joined the session of the Presidential Commission via Skype. Lodging a complaint with the Commission, he said that he became a victim of political revenge following the hateful charges filed by the Financial Crimes Investigation Division established during the Yahapalana government period. The complaint said that when he arrived at the Katunayaka International Airport with his family to travel to USA for a tour on November 17, 2016, he was summoned by the officers of the Financial Crimes Investigation Division to record a statement claiming that a travel ban has been imposed on him. After producing him before the courts on November 18th, the complaint said that he was remanded based on a B report which consisted of false information presented by the Financial Crimes Investigation officers. They made the attempt for the arrest on that day as it was the birthday of Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa. Accordingly, he said that they attempted to gain publicity with the announcement of his arrest on this day. He claimed that they made the attempt to dishonor the birthday of the Prime Minister. The complaint said that he was kept in remand custody for a period of 4 months and he was granted bail to travel to USA to receive treatments. He then said that he made the effort to return to the country following the surgery, yet the American authorities disallowed him to return. He also informed the Commission that since the Sri Lankan government had filed charges against him, the Sri Lanka had made a request to the US government to take actions in accordance to the US law in this regard. Accordingly, international red notice was issued over his arrest. Also, officials of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Financial Crimes Investigation Division of the Yahapalana government had taken measures to remove the diplomatic immunity and privileges he entitled under the Vienna Convention. He said that he had acted upon a cabinet-approved dealing which earned a profit of $332,000 to the country.
And that's all the stories for tonight. We'll see you tomorrow at the very same time. Good night.
Good night.